Hi, and thank you for joining us today. You're listening to Radio Ear Network, and I'm your host, Julie Salant, and this is Motivation Addict on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Julie Salant, and today our guest is Dr. Keith Latson and Dr. Rob Franklin, co-founders of Full Bucket, an animal nutritional supplement company, which provides assistance to animals in need. We'll find out more when we return. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show, Motivation Addict. I am thrilled today. I have two special guests. I have Dr. Keith Latson and Dr. Rob Franklin from Full Bucket, and they are doing some amazing things in the world to help animals and horses in need. So welcome to the show, Dr. Keith and Dr. Rob. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I would love it if you could give the listeners a little bit of background on how Full Bucket started.
That's a great question, and one that we love to talk about because it's been a great journey. Keith and I have known each other since early days of being fraternity brothers and pre-vet undergraduates at Texas A&M University, and so our friendship goes back almost 30 years. And as Keith and I both went into veterinary school, we developed special interest, his being equine surgery, mine being equine internal medicine. So after our 8 years of undergrad and vet school, we went on and did 4 extra years of internship and residency, both became board certified specialists, and both ended up on opposite sides of the coast, me being in Ocala, Florida, and Keith being in Los Angeles. And we were both doing our thing. We stayed in close communication. I was working in a hospital. Keith was operating on racehorses at the racetrack, and it was really that sort of that great friendship and professional relationship that begged a question one time whenever Keith called and said, "Hey, Rob, I'm getting to work on some amazing horses for some of the best trainers in the country. These horses are, this is my real shot at being a equine surgeon. And these are elective surgeries. And occasionally whenever I do the surgery, I've got to use some antibiotics around that time. And these horses are getting diarrhea. And of course, you as being a horse person know how delicate the horse's gut is. And anything, antibiotics, anything else, this surgery anesthesia can throw off a horse's intestinal tract. So Keith said, this is a big problem. They're bringing me a horse that's got a small chip in its knee, and I'm supposed to do arthroscopy on that. And then all of a sudden we've got life-threatening diarrhea. And so my training in internal medicine, said, hey, Keith, there's some stuff out there. It's human stuff, but there's some really good science behind it, and I'm using the human form of it. It's a really cumbersome. It's difficult to give, but if you can get it into them, it'll surely help. And so just that, and Keith, finding that worked for him, and then coming back and said, man, we've got to get these other horses out there and our colleagues. We've got to get them onto this stuff, and we got to get it into a form that works for horses. And so we did. We went through the whole discovery of figuring out how to make a nutritional supplement and get quality ingredients and all that. And we ended up a few years down the road, and we had a little business on our hands. And it was at that point that we were both doing great as veterinarians and enjoying, our personal, professional lives. And that's when we said, okay, we got a little business. What can we actually do that would be good for not only us and our families, but also for the world, just having that social conscious, and which was, in 2007, that wasn't a very popular thing. And I don't know how your mom is, but my mom forwards me a lot of emails, and also sends me some occasional books. And she sent me Blake Makowski's book, that, of course, the guy that started Tom's Shoes. And she sent me that book, Start Something That Matters. And it's one of the, I read about 2% of what she sends me. And I happened to read that, and it was just, it was really a motivational book for us, and it gave us a lot of direction of, okay, let's do something where we're giving back. And we started a 1-for-1 program at about the time we started volunteering for and doing veterinary care in the developing world. And so we just came up with a company just like Tom's Shoes, where for everyone you sell, we give one to a working animal in need. And it's just been a real tailwind for our lives, making that decision.
That's amazing. And I love that you're doing that. And it's so needed, just from some of the pictures and the video that I saw on your website. It's just incredible. Can you tell me the first place that you visited and what you saw when you got there?
Yeah, I think Keith's got some really good stories on that first trip to Mexico.
Sure. The first trip to Mexico, I think Rob and I had no idea what to expect. Rob flew out to California with his wife, Lori, and we said, hey, let's go run a half marathon. And that was a big deal for both of us to complete that half marathon. And as we finished the half marathon, we said, well, now we have to go jump on a plane to Mexico. So exhausted, anxious, highly anticipating what was to come, we got on the plane and got into Mexico to work with some local veterinarians at one of the veterinary universities there, along with some of their students and local veterinarians out in the field, and discovered that our frame of reference was fairly narrow in terms of our experience with horses and working on horses as veterinarians. Some of the things that we saw out in the field, from a gentleman who came on his donkey for a couple of hours because he was an amputee. This donkey was his wheelchair, his car, his everything. And so he rode that donkey, or he was actually led. The donkey was led in hand by the gentleman's grandson for a couple of hours to come and see us for health care. And it dawned on us that we take for granted here so many of the things that we as veterinarians are able to provide horses and our patients, and not just the animals, but the animals' owners as well, in the conversation and the education. And what we really learned from that is that the education goes both ways. We learned so much about how to make do with less, how to be happy with less. These are things that were just put right in front of us that I think in small ways we had experienced before, but never in such dramatic fashion. And it was as we were riding in one of the vans going to one of the work sites that Rob and I just turned to each other and said, there's something bigger that we can do with this company, and it's right in front of us.
Wow. And when I was watching the video, I saw that man, and it seemed like there was so much education that has to go along with what you're doing, not just your services, but as you're saying, the education. What kind of condition were the horses and donkeys and mules in? Because a lot of these animals are, as you said, working animals. They are not leisure and pleasure like we have here.
Yeah, that was the number one thing, is that, we're dealing with lameness, we're dealing with dental problems, we're administering things to remove parasites, internal and external. We're dealing with wounds, saddle sores. But, just like you probably saw, Julie, the number one thing was malnutrition. And, these animals have some very, very simple nutritional deficiencies that, again, and this was, 10 plus years ago when, a social business, was a new idea. I think it's table stakes now. Any and every company has some sort of social cause that it's supporting, but really there was no one in the animal health care and very few companies in general that were doing that. And so for us, just to see such an immediate connection between, hey, we have a training in developing nutritional things, and we're dealing with malnutrition. So, how can we stand in that gap as a product company? And it was just a Lego snap. I mean, it just fit. And so malnutrition, poor body condition is number one for those animals.
Right. I would think that would be, maybe, I don't know, it just looked hard to watch, but I understand the things that you're doing there in education. So after you have done some work on the immediate needs of the animals, do you also have conversations with them about maybe what they're feeding them, if the feed is wrong and incorrect, if they are able to get something different into them?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big deal. Education is one of those things you can provide that's, anytime you're helping out, you don't want to hurt the local economy. You don't want to step on people's toes. You don't want to come in there and be Superman and then leave and potentially, people are worse off. And so we believe that education is one of the greatest things we give, and we provide that both to the local veterinarians that we work with and also to the horse owners, because a lot of it is, as you say, it's ignorance. They don't know what they're supposed to feed. And so these animals are just fed a poor quality tropical grass that grows along the roadside. They're not given ample time to graze. Horses, as a horse owner, how horses are designed to eat throughout the day. And so these people have to understand, hey, it's not a dog that can eat one meal and go for the whole day. I mean, they have to eat constantly, and they have to be able to get access to food and salt. I mean, salt is a big deal. You can imagine how much these working animals sweat, and they don't have access to a salt lick or added salt into their diet, or even the ability to go out and forage into natural salt licks. So those are big things. And what we try to do is educate people on what to feed given what they have access to. So, most of these people are living on $1 or $2 a day. And so asking them to go and buy some commercially prepped, horse and mule feed is way out of the question. So, what they have to be able to do is take the things that are local. A lot of areas grow corn. A lot of areas have soy. So we try to use those as concentrated energy sources, along with, again, trying to, explain to them how important lots of pasture they need to eat. They need to eat about 2% of their body weight a day in pasture. Well, they need to have time to eat that much. And so these people just don't realize that.
Right. Now, what countries are you serving right now? Because I think on the video it was Guatemala.
Right. Yep. We've been going to Guatemala since 2012, and we continue to spend at least 2 weeks there a year. We've got, it takes a local partner there. And so we've got some local NGO or non-governmental organizations that we work with that provide continuity. And one of the ones we work with is a group called World Horse Welfare. They're out of the UK. And they have a global reach in terms of going in and trying to help these working horses. And so they've got local people that are there. They concentrate on different aspects of helping with the welfare of these animals. We come in and help with the nutrition and the veterinary care. And so we have those people. They also have a footprint in Nicaragua, where we've been going for the past 4 years. And then we did spend some time in Mexico, but right now some of our partners are going into Mexico and doing a great job there. We also have some partners that are going into Honduras and doing great things in Honduras, and even down in the highlands of Peru, we have some partners who do some work down there.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you guys are doing this, because I'm sure it's so needed. When you go, I mean, how many patients do you usually see in terms of animals?
Well, our team is typically about 10 people, and that is composed of veterinary students, veterinarians